My father's name was Louie or Alberto Ortiz. My name is Louis Alberto Ortiz, and for years I thought that was the only thing that connected us, because we didn't have anything else. Then when he died in August of 1996, I was at his funeral, and I walked up to the casket, and I read the plaque. And his name was spelled L-U-I-S. And I said, that's interesting. So I said, Mom, who was telling everyone that she was the widow, although his new wife was crying in the back. I said, they spelled his name wrong. She said, oh no, his name is spelled correctly. It's yours that's spelled wrong. Because they added an O to your name on the birth certificate and walked away. And I was like, do you think that was important to tell me? And of course, as I look back, I'm like, wow, systems were already at play when I was born to keep me disconnected to my father. I don't have many pictures of my father. I actually don't have any pictures of my father, which means I don't have any pictures with me with my father. I suppose there should be no surprise that I can no longer picture my father. Sometimes, maybe every once in a while, I would try to conjure up his face, but I can't. I try to remember if he was tall or short, or maybe he just always fell short of my expectations. Sometimes what I do remember is the feeling of paralysis whenever he came around. I would stand still, motionless like a statue. I was unable to speak. I was unable to move. I was afraid to ask him to soothe the pain that his family caused when they called his 6-year-old son a faggot. Afraid to tell him that other men were scared to mentor me because I was too feminine. I was afraid to tell him that I was always too scared to go to barbershops. So I would just stand still, not feel like a statue. I saw my father periodically growing up. And I was never one of those boys who longed for a father. I would watch TV shows and watch other little boys get reconnected with their father and break down like, no, it's too late. And I'm like, child. Then in 1994, my mother told me that my father had been diagnosed with AIDS. And this was a time before retroantivirals, so the only hope was that you just didn't die, or that you'll pray, or maybe get a plant, because the thought was if you had a plant, you'll live longer because your soul will want to see it grow. That was actually a thought in 1994, to give you some context. And I remember not knowing how to feel. So 2 years later, my sister called me and said, Daddy is on his deathbed. She called him Daddy, I called him him. I still can't say father. I say it because I have to say it today, but it's still a very odd word to me. I can call anybody mom's mom. So I say, hey, Mom. Hey, Mr. Jackson. Or she's like my mom. I never say he's like my dad. She said, Daddy wants to see you. He's on his deathbed, and his last wish is to see you. Let me tell you, it is really, really weird to be somebody's last wish. So I remember thinking, okay, I love a little drama. So I went to the hospital, and I went with a coworker. And I remember walking into the room, and it was my sisters that he had with other women. They called me their brother. I called them them. And they were all crying. And his new wife, Evelyn, was crying. And I had no animosity to them. They were just strangers to me. They were offspring of a man who was a stranger to me. So I didn't hate them. I just didn't know them. But my sister, the one who called me, is my blood sister. She and I have the same mother and father. As soon as I walk in, everyone starts crying like I'm the long-lost prodigal son. as if I was the one who had walked away from fatherhood. And I remember feeling so weird because it was as if everyone was waiting for this magical moment to happen. And I just didn't feel anything. And I remember he was laying there like life was sucked out of him. He could not even move. And I remember like knowing that I had to hug him because if I didn't, that would make me look cold. And my being gay already made my father's family look at me really weird. So I didn't want to be weird and cold. So I remember hugging him, but I might as well have been hugging the bed frame. And I remember my sister, who loves drama more than I do, said, "Daddy, do you know who that is?" And he was like, "Yeah, that's Pee-wee, my son." And of course, everyone starts crying. And again, I'm just trying to like figure out what to do next, trying to figure out what the dance is. What do little boys do when they see their father dying? What do little boys do when they see their father laying there like a statue? Years later, I will process that moment very differently. And I get enraged at myself that I didn't take that opportunity to tell him all that I thought, because this time he couldn't run away. Because his body was stiffening already, and he was like a statue. And there were so many things that I now want to tell him. You will be my statue. You will stand like a hero while I stare at you, trying to figure out why I am exactly who I am. I trace and erase my imagination on every scar on your body to find the pain that made you to believe that it was okay to walk away from me. You will listen to my childhood wishes that my inner child flung abandonedly into the night sky that like deserts just takes and takes. You will be my statue because I have too much at stake for you to wake me from the dream that you too miss these moments, chances, and dances we could have shared. You will be my statue and you will stand and try to understand that wherever I go, I carry the resemblance of your face. The face that like deserts just takes and takes, dries me up of forgiveness and grace, and then leaves me with the guilt to follow behind me like a shadow. And now you will fade and leave me orphaned. And the moments I have, which are few, will morph in to burning pictures and carnivals you never took me to. You will be my statue and you will hold my face in your hands. Our likeness is something that I need to feel to live. You will give me the comforting warmth of standing beneath your gaze while I collect all the days you stole from me. I will no longer allow deserts to take and take. I have too much at stake for you to wake me from this dream that you too missed the moments, chances, and dances we could have shared. You will be my statue because I'm no longer mad at you. You will be my idol, my private dynasty. I will kneel at your altar. My fear nor my pride will make me falter because I will speak of all the things, the autumns, the winters, the summers, and the springs that stay cold and absent of you. I will usher you into my heart of stone, my world, where the air is thin and the loneliness is thick, where my reality swings from a pendulum of forgiveness and regret, where when I speak your name, my voice is heavy with the accent of hunger, of wanting to know all the little things that others knew about their father. You will be my statue and I will bow in reverence because I have too much at stake for unresolved anger to break the moments and chances and dances that we are about to share. My son doesn't call me dad. I became a father 14 years ago. And he never calls me dad. When he was 1, he used to call me mom. And I never told him to call me mom, and we thought it was the craziest, wackiest thing. And I can remember all the times we'd be in Walmart and Target, because when you become a parent, those are places you love. And there was this little black boy just saying, "Mom!" And I'm like, "What?" And people would see this big bearded guy answering a mom. Eventually, he'll wind up start calling me Louie. Now at 14, still doesn't call me dad. He calls me Lou. And for some people, it's just as crazy as when he used to call me mom. But when he calls me Lou, he calls me from a place that is no more. A place when I was unsure if I was wanted or wanted out the door. When he calls me Lou, I hear something very different than what other people hear. When he calls me Lou, it is like balm, like healing, like my cure. He's my reminder that I'm not too feminine. He's my reminder that I won't die of AIDS. He's my reminder that I don't have to be scared at barbershops. He's my reminder of everything great that my father walked away from. He's also my reminder that if my father knew what he was walking away from, he would not have walked away. And it is in that I found forgiveness. Because as he grows up, I think now as I'm turning 40 in the next week or so, of all the things I could have done differently. All the times that he wanted to watch shows, but I wanted to go to work, or I wanted to be there for someone else because I wanted him to see me be there for someone else. So as I navigate this journey of fatherhood and learning to provide myself grace, I'm learning to provide my father's memory that same grace. And my son thinks the world bends to him. He does. He's only child. I'm his father. My ex-partner is his father, and his birth father is his father. So he's being raised by a man who did not have a father, and now I have a son that has 3 fathers. I have a son who has 3 fathers who introduce him to their families. So now my son thinks every time I introduce him to somebody that that's his cousin. He thinks the world bends to him. And as a young black man, that is what I want him to know. That is what I want him to believe. But I also know the reality that we live in. I know that the reality is that as he gets older, he's no longer adorable to some of my friends and to some of my family members, because he will become a scary black young man to them. And as I try to balance my message of hope, love, and magic to him, I try to remind him of what else is out there. Not to scare him, but to prepare him. Oh, my son, they will mock you and try to stop you and block your magic. They will twist your beauty, but it is your duty to do more than just laugh and cry that away. Cry the ugly words that they will say. Oh, my son, they will try to tell you to obey as if the bullets would keep that away, but it won't. They will strike you and fight you against the ropes, but it is my hope that you do not surrender without battle. Oh, my son, they will pick you apart in how your raging heart, while never speaking once of how cops hold their guns to your head. They will stare and talk at you until you fall out of yourself. They will want you to run, but hold steady, my son, to who you are and who you will become. They will try to take your moon and steal the room you need to grow. They will carve you and attempt to starve you until you believe that your magic isn't real. Until you believe that you no longer need a sword and shield. Let me tell you, my son, because you will. And it is your duty to never let them twist your magic and beauty into something that they can control. Because my single request to you is to always know this unrelenting truth. Your life, your joy, and your rage matters, and our legacy is bulletproof. And now here I stand, a gay man, in between a childhood of a young boy who did not have a father to raising a boy who has 3 fathers. And all of the healing and magic that village has provided for me. Thank you very much.